about Wānaka Airport?
Well, Wānaka Airport is it's a key piece of infrastructure / asset for our community. It's got a big general aviation contribution to our community. It's provides employment and a bit of diversity, I guess, in terms of our local economy. And it's something that I think people are very, very conscious of. They want to do what's best in terms of redeveloping or increasing the size of our airport. I think it's, particularly we have minor flights now to Sounds Air. It's great for the Wānaka community to have that link within 50 minutes being Christchurch. Certainly we use it regularly. But I think that in the future, any development changes, any increase in size or whatever for the Wānaka Airport needs to be done with close community consultation. I appreciate at the moment there's money needs to be spent there. There needs to be improvements to infrastructure in terms of water, sewage, firefighting, etc. And I think, it'd be good to keep some momentum going, to keep those improvements. But any major development or redevelopment of the Wānaka Airport needs to have that wider community conversation.
Thank you. What were the key learnings from the recent High Court ruling about Wānaka Airport?
Talk to your community. I think get your community on board. It's when people feel left out, when people feel marginalised, not included in the conversation, that there's a level of uncomfortable feeling, I guess, amongst some people. And I think that the real lesson is bring your community along with you and listen to your community. If the community is saying, no, hey, hang on, we're not quite happy with this, take it on board.
Okay, thank you. Did you read the High Court judgment?
I read some parts of it, yes. I didn't read into it, but there was a very clear signal, I guess, that things could have been done better. Thank you,
Barry. How have you informed yourself about the airport issues?
I, as a wannabe pilot in the past, I have quite a bit to do with the airport in various ways. I talk to people who are involved with the airport. I listen to what people are saying in the community about the airport. I certainly picked up on the sensitivities that have been expressed about and concerns about the wider effects of the wrong sort of development for our airport that could have on our community. So it's something that I'm conscious of, very mindful of, and I certainly appreciated that it was something that almost divided our community in some ways. So I think it's a key issue.
Thank you. Have you read the Martin Jenkins report?
I went through some of that as well, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Who do you believe should determine the future evolution of Wānaka Airport?
Oh, look, the airport, as I said right at the start, it's a key piece of community infrastructure. So I think at the end of the day, it's our community that should influence the decision. I think obviously things have changed. I think there is now an appetite amongst the people the decision makers, to be more engaged with the community. And I think once again, there's an opportunity to have a Wānaka Airport liaison committee, for example, which I think is an opportunity to bring the community and the airport changes closer together. And I'm really keen to see that liaison committee put into place. So I think it's just having that door open to have open conversation. It's the unknown that feeds the speculation and the uncertainty. And I think it's keeping what's happening out there in the public space, so that our community are aware of it. And good politicians and good decision makers listen to the community. And I think that's the key to it.
Thank you. Now you've already touched on this next question, but you may like to expand on it. What do you know about the Wānaka Airport Liaison Committee?
Well, there's an instrument, I guess, a recommendation from some earlier legal work that a airport liaison committee be established with representatives from the community and within the airport to be able to get around the table, you know, as I said, keep the door open for open discussion. And I think that if there is an airport liaison committee and that the committee reports back to the community in some way, that you know, that's healthy, that's good, healthy dialogue and discussion, and it keeps people aware of what's happening, not, as I say, the uncertainty, the unknown.
Thank you. So, as you mentioned, there is provision made for the Wānaka Airport liaison in the QLDC district plan, but
Yes.
it hasn't been established yet. If elected, would you promote and support the establishment of the Wānaka Airport Liaison Committee, and describe how, please?
100%. I've already, I guess, encouraged the establishment of, or tried to encourage the establishment of that committee. I believe that it will, in the next term, it will be established. I will certainly be, if I'm elected, be using the opportunity to keep working on the establishment of the committee. I think that committee needs to be made up of community representatives plus, as I say, airport aviation people, because obviously the airport's quite a complex piece of our infrastructure. And I think that the liaison committee needs to have a process where we report back to the community, either, you know, via media or via newsletters, just to keep people aware of what's happening and what's proposed, because obviously, you know, there's work that needs to be done at the airport, and people take an interest in it. They like to know what's happening, and to have a process set up where we can report back, keep people in the loop, very, very important. Thank
you. What do you see as the key issues or considerations driving the airport's future?
Well, I think that it's important to remember that the airport is, I guess, it's established mainly on the back of general aviation. So I think that's important. I think private aviation people really enjoy having that facility. I think some scheduled services as demand arises, something that's for consideration. The airport, I think, it certainly has limitations. I think we need to, I guess, in the first instance, protect that general aviation segment, but also leave the door open for discussion around scheduled services as the demand may arise. But I would see it more of a commuter type airport rather than a main destination.
Okay, thank you. And what is your stance on carbon emissions, and what should QLDC do? And please be specific.
Well, carbon emissions, you know, I think we're seeing evidence of the effects of a slow reaction to improving what we do in terms of minimalising carbon emissions. I think we're starting to see new developments, particularly in road transport and so forth, with electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles, work going on in the hydrogen area. I believe that there's a lot of technology being developed in the aviation sector as well, with regard to electrified or electric aeroplanes. So I think over the next, probably we're looking 5 to 10 years, there's going to be a rapid change in how we do things. I think it's very, very important for the council to work hard for the community and enabling the implementation of ways of doing things differently in transport, and even if it gets down, you know, if you look at our waste disposal system, landfills emit a lot of emissions into the atmosphere as well. So I think there's a huge focus required. It's very, very hard to identify one key thing that's going to make a huge difference, but I think it's going to be a whole lot of little things that we do collectively that will make the big difference.
Thank you. What is your position on the proposed new airport at Terrace?
That's an interesting one. I guess it's a bit frustrating that the door was left open a wee bit, and that Christchurch Airport have come in and invested money in land, I guess, in the first instance. Look, on one hand, I think there would be, from a practical point of view, I think if you could air freight high value products out of the area, such as that, there's a huge horticultural industry developing in the area. We've got live crayfish, for example, that have to be air freighted overseas. I think I can see some advantages. The downside to it, which I wouldn't want to see, is a large international airport bring in a massive influx of people that are going to put a huge amount of pressure on our community, our environment, on our roading system. So I guess my overall view of it would be I wouldn't like to see it happen. Although I can see that there's some practical advantages, but my overall, if we're going to look after our area and protect our environment and not over stress our community, I think it would be better not to happen.
Okay, thank you. And what do you see as the role of the Wānaka Community Board and where it should fit with council?
Well, that's an interesting one. I've been very, very strong on the community board. Obviously, this is my first term, so it has been quite a rapid learning curve. And right in the middle of this term, we faced a representation review process, which I found it certainly took a lot of my energy and time to fight to retain the community board. I must admit I was dismayed when our 3 Wānaka Ward councillors publicly spoke up against keeping the community board. I think the community board plays a very, very important role. Its role needs to be strengthened. I think it needs to have more autonomy, and it's certainly, I'd like to see a better level of finance support particularly for smaller projects. Going forward, I think the community board has the opportunity, in particular as things may change in the wider picture with the central government review of local government, that community boards have got the opportunity to play an even greater role in advocating and working for their communities.
Thank you, Barry. And as a bonus final question, you've got 1 minute to address the people of Wānaka. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Nikki. Well, I guess first and foremost, I'd like to say that I've really enjoyed my first term in local government. It's been a steep learning curve, as I mentioned previously. I think that it's great to see some progress on projects that have been sitting on the table languishing for some years, that we've managed to get the lakefront redevelopment stages underway. Stage 3 is finished. Stage 2 is well underway at the moment. There's more work to be done in that area. We've got a lot of work going on in the background on improvements to intersections. There's a number of projects planned for the latter part of this year into next year. The golf club, who have been wanting a crossing on Valentine Road for about 10 years, I believe, are going to have a crossing very shortly. I think, things like the roundabout at the turn off to Lake Hawea Haast being in planning stage at the moment, there's going to be a massive change. It'd be good to be part of that. The Riverbank Road, Valentine Road intersection is also going to be upgraded, as is the Valentine Road Golf Course Road intersection. So there's a heap of work in progress. I'd love to be part of that. I think I bring a practical approach to things, and I certainly think I bring quite a lot of local knowledge to the table. So I would really appreciate the opportunity to be part of the next 3-year period and progressing our town in a way that provides the right amenities, but also protects our towns and wider communities character and flavour.